Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, we're going to talk about a role-playing game, another role-playing game. Today I'd like to talk about a Call of Cthulhu game that I played quite a while ago, and I actually don't have a lot of experience with Call of Cthulhu games. I've played just a handful of them, but they're very tricky games to run, because what Call of Cthulhu games are, they're based on the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, who wrote a lot of horror and science fiction and stuff like that. They were all about these creatures from beyond space and time that would descend to the earth and then devour everybody's minds, and it was terrible and horrible, and it was all creepy and scary and weird, and it would be told from the perspective of ordinary people, you know, like researchers or farmers or whatever, who stumbled into these horrible things, these kind of demons, if you will. So role-playing games are based kind of on the same premise as you're playing this, you know, ordinary guy, a researcher, or maybe like you're some just weird guy who likes to dig up bodies or whatever, like they did in the Lovecraft books, and you stumble into this mystery. And the objective of the Call of Cthulhu game is to figure out what the mystery is. There are video games like this. Dark Corners of the Earth, I think, was actually it's a Call of Cthulhu game based on the Port of Innsmouth. Is a story that Lovecraft wrote. But anyway, though, the trick behind these particular games is that you're trying to make things like creepy and suspenseful. And this can be very hard to do when you've got players who really don't fear for the lives of their own characters. This is especially hard to do when you have sort of a comical group of guys who are never really going to cooperate with what it is that you're doing. In fact, I've probably got it. Every Call of Cthulhu game that I've ever been in usually ends in some kind of horrible comedy. Mostly because our group will go with the dumbest and bluntest possible solution to the problem. And I mean, like, practically, in a practical sense, they aren't bad ideas, but a lot of times the GM is just like, no, guys, you're supposed to want to unravel the mystery. And we're just like, no, it's scary. I'm not unraveling this mystery. I am getting Molotov cocktails and I am burning the house now. So stuff like that usually happens with the groups that I've played with. But we played one game where we kind of embraced this silliness. We actually had Sandler, from the Children of the Sandler games, run a Call of Cthulhu campaign. And I don't know whether or not Sandler could run a suspenseful game. I never really played a game with him that ever was suspenseful. He seemed not to have a real strong interest in building suspense or anything like that. But what he decided was that he wanted to stage a game that was set in our high school. And the premise was very ridiculous. It was basically that we had like 20 characters, and we could play each character, like we'd play a character until it died, and then we grabbed another character from the pool, and we played with that character until they died. And gradually, Sandler was just going to kill all of our characters. This was the premise. This is what he explained to us. So, no suspense, nothing, you know, he's just like, I just want you guys to try to solve the mystery, and you'll never solve the mystery, and I will kill everyone. And this was his plan. This is what he was going to do. So he had, like, the blueprints to the school, and he'd planned out, or I don't know if or maybe he just like drawn the blueprints. I don't know. Somehow he'd planned out each of the rooms of the school, and he had there was some kind of monster in every single room. So he opens up and he explains, like, there's 20 of these like high school stereotypes, you know, like you have the stoner and the hipster kid and the goth, you know, the emo goth kid. There was the fat kid, there was the cheerleader girl, the jock, you know, all these different guys. The cool kid. And so we all got to play, and the only one that I really remember was the cool kid, because he was one of the longest lasting kids in the game, and he was based on the Fonz, or at least the guy who played as him decided that it was the Fonz, because I just remember him going around, hey, you know, every time that somebody tries to get him to do something, or he would try to negotiate with the monsters. But this game opens up, and what Sandler describes is he goes, you're all in the library, and then it suddenly starts to snow, like really hard. Like the snow that's coming down is just the size of, like, you know, like a refrigerator, like just refrigerator-sized piles of snow. It's just like dropping out of the sky and landing, and it quickly piles up and just blots out the window. And a kid panics. One of the kids in the library panics, and he goes, "Oh no, I can't be trapped in the school. My soaps are on in 30 minutes." And so he tries to run out like the top window, one of the top parts of the window. Like he pushes it down, and he gets out while it's still snowing. And a swarm of ice swans flies out from nowhere and rips this kid to shreds before our very eyes. And then the snow finishes burying the school. So we're all basically buried under, like, you know, a story of snow, like a whole, like we're like, do you think that we're like, if we got to the rooftop, could we maybe be outside? And then we're like, yeah, well, maybe, but the ice swans would kill us. So this is the premise. Oh, right. And then after that kid gets killed by ice swans outside, we have the fat kid, and it was the foreign exchange student. That's right, the fat kid was someone. The foreign exchange student comes running down the halls, screaming in a foreign accent, and like a pair of ice swans chase him down and then maul him to death, like outside in the hallways, and they just tear him apart, and they pick out they tear out his innards, and then they just leave. Like they look in and they give us all like a dirty look, like, we're watching you, and then they just leave. And I remember that somebody was mad because they wanted to play the foreign exchange student, and they were pissed because they had a funny accent planned and everything like that. They're like, damn it, Sandler, you killed my character right off the bat. You killed my character in a cutscene, asshole. But anyway, so game begins. It was weird because there wasn't really like a cohesive plot or anything. I just remember how bizarre everything gradually became. Because we got together all of our various high school stereotypes, like I said, most of which we just played them as stereotypically as possible. There was this stoner kid came in eventually. The stoner kid was eventually the one who got everybody killed, but that's later. But the first thing that we decided to do was go clear across the school and go check out the gym. And I don't remember why it was that we wanted to check out the gym, but not specifically the gym, because that was a large room. And we were all really nervous about it. We were like, man, I don't want to go look in the gym. Like, imagine what kind of large creature could be in the gym. Like we were using out-of-character information, and we knew it, and Sandler knew it. Nobody got punished. Sandler was just like, oh yeah, there's probably monsters in the gym. I mean, like, your characters theoretically have to go to a room and realize this, but just heads up, guys. If I can fit something evil and huge in a room, then I will. And we were like, oh, well, the gym's probably got like a whale with horns in it or something like that, because that would be big. So we didn't go to the gym because we didn't want to be eaten alive by a whale with horns. Instead, we went downstairs to the locker rooms, because all the locker rooms were downstairs. You had to go upstairs to go to the gym. So we go downstairs to the locker rooms, and this is where we meet one of the characters that I really recall from the whole thing, because it was a character that I played, and he survived through most of the game. There were apparently a few benign characters that Sandler had set up, and we walk into the gym, and what happens is we get ambushed by a caveman, and it turns out he's not like an evil caveman or anything like that. They're just a caveman in the locker room. I can't remember if he was in the girls' locker room. Like, I don't know if we did this sniggering like, oh, let's go check out the girls' locker room, or if we just went into the men's locker room and there he was. But a caveman was in the locker room. So this caveman comes out, and he speaks like very rudimentary English, but he's got like a strength of 20, which in the D20 system is something ridiculous. That's like he can pick up a car and throw it or something like that. I never played a lot of D&D, so I'm not sure, but I just know it was really strong. So Sandler, he goes, okay, so you've met this caveman. Good first choice, guys. You didn't go someplace that would get you killed, and now he's part of the party. You can play as the caveman now. So I go, oh, I'm gonna play as the caveman. That's me. I am all over this caveman thing. So I pick up the caveman, and then immediately start heckling the other kids. I go to the Fonz, and I steal his jacket because I'm stronger than him, and I'm the alpha male. And so I stole the Fonz's jacket, and the jacket was, and the Fonz was really mad about that. He's just, oh, man, this is not very cool. But anyway, though, so we go and we explore the weightlifting room, because the weightlifting room was also downstairs. And this is the first place that we find something that's not benign. What Sandler had planned for this was he had like a bunch of he had two like old-timey weightlifters, and what they were doing is their weightlifting routines, squats and bench presses and things like that. And we come in, they're like, oh, good, finally, you're here for the gym lesson, or you're here for the gym training. And so they grab everyone and they sit them down at the benches, and what they tried to do is they try to get everybody to sit there and do like bench presses and deadlifts and things like that until they die. And so the caveman, who's got like ridiculous amounts of strength, they sit him down and they make him start doing bench presses, and he can do this for like a really long time. Like, he's totally cool with it. He's just like, oh, okay, I'll do this for a while. But like the other kids are no match for this sort of training regimen. So they keep trying to take breaks, and these weight trainer guys keep stopping them, and they're like, oh, no, you have to keep, you only get a 1 minute break. You have to keep going. And so these weightlifter guys are doing their exercises as they're forcing everyone else to do exercises, and they're so strong, like as soon as everybody's break is done, they just pick you up and they set you down. Like they just lift you up and they set you down. So during someone's 1 minute break, what they do is when one of the weightlifter guys was doing his squats with like weights on his back, they take the little cuff off of his weight bar, and then they just slide the weights off of the bar. So he falls down and injures himself while he's got all these weights, and then they just pick up a big weight and they just bash him in the head with it. There were 2 weightlifters, and so in a fit of sorrow and rage, what he does is he grabs the kid who killed his weightlifting friend, and he just suplexes him to death, and that's how we lost our first kid. And after that, we all ran out of the room because, you know, whatever. How this tied into the Ice Swan thing, I don't know. Sandler just decided that there was random things in every single room. Where do we go next? I believe that we went upstairs and I think we checked out like there was a room that was used specifically for like an ecology class or something like that. It was some kind of weird program, but basically what it was is that kids would donate their pets to this class, like their old pets. So like you had a parakeet that you were sick of, you could donate your parakeet to this class, and they just kept a bunch of pets in this room, and then supposedly they taught you about the lifestyles of the pets or whatever. Like I said, it was kind of a weird class. And sure enough, that one had velociraptors in it, which devolved into the joke of like they're smart enough to open doors. How come, you know, they're like, oh, they're so smart they can open doors. How come they never opened doors while they were inside? And we kind of tried to like argue the logic on this for a little while. We're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. If they're smart enough to open doors, they should already be loose. And so I think what we did is we just I don't know, we barricaded the door, and we're like, can they open like barricaded doors? And Sandler was like, oh no, I guess they haven't evolved to open barricaded doors. I suppose you guys successfully stopped the velociraptors from escaping. And we're like, oh, okay, good. So we move on over and we go check out the computer room because, you know, whatever, the computer lab, that's got to be interesting. What kind of horrible things could be in the computer lab? Well, what Sandler had decided for that was that there were nanomachines in the computer lab, you know, high technology. So I don't remember again which stereotypical kid went into this room, but Sandler just basically grabs the kid and then tears him apart with nanomachines, and then reforms his body so it's purely nanomachines. Like all the nanomachines come together in the shape of this kid, and so the friend who was playing this kid who got torn apart goes, oh, okay, well, let me grab another character. And Sandler goes, yeah, you could do that. Or, I mean, I guess you could keep playing as the nanomachine kid, but there's a rule. And he goes, oh, what's that? He's like, well, you've got to convince everyone that turning themselves into nanomachines is the best possible outcome. And so my friend goes, oh, okay, I mean, like, what are the benefits? He's like, well, you can't be killed, you're technically on the side of the bad guys, and just so long as you constantly try to motivate the group towards becoming nanomachines, everything's good. So the guy who was playing this nanomachines kid, from that point forward, every time we went back to the library to try and discuss what our next plan of action was or where we wanted to go next, which was mostly just a series of stupid arguments of like, what would be the most interesting? I want to go to the band room. No, the band room is dumb. I want to go to the cafeteria. No, there's probably things in the cafeteria. It's a big room. He would sit there and he'd be like, I want to go back to the computer room and turn everyone into nanomachines. And we would be like, why? Why do you want to do that, Steve? And he'd be like, well, because think of all the advantages of becoming nanomachines. And so every time we talk about something, just like, we could probably combat the ice swans if we were all nanomachines, guys. Like, I think we should go become nanomachines so that we can visit the cafeteria and know that we'll be safe from certain death. And they're like, you're just saying that because you're nanomachines, Steve. Like, we all knew that he was nanomachines. We just gave him, you know, we just constantly gave him crap for it. We're like, oh, you're the nanomachine. So, yes. So on our way out, we decided we're going to go to the theater room. We had a small theater in our school, and so we go downstairs, and this is where we lost a bunch of kids. Is we went into the theater and we walked inside, and there was nothing in it, and we were like, oh, well, that's weird. Like, you'd think the theater room there'd be something sort of large and sort of interesting down here. And so we walk around, and it turns out that what it was is the theater room was alive. Like, the theater was alive. So like 2 or 3 of us got grabbed by various like furniture and things like that. It became like Beauty and the Beast, where Sandler was just like, oh, the furniture comes alive and it tackles you and it pins you down, and it's like somebody got strangled, other people got beaten to death. We lost like half the party in the theater room, and so we ran out and we were like, oh, that was shit. And so we go back to the library, or they try to go back to the library, but there's a hallway. that you have to go through. There was like a connecting bridge that that connected this part of the room to it, and there were ice swans patrolling it, and at this point, like because some of us had lost characters and we had nothing else to do, like as Sandler explained that there's 2 ice swans and they're patrolling up and down the hall. And so someone tries to go, like, they're like, okay, so Sandler, explain how they're patrolling. Are they patrolling like one walks by and the other walks? Or are they walking like side by side and they're like talking to each other? And Sandler goes, they're ice swans, guys. What would they be talking about? You know, they'd just be honking silently to each other. And so I turned to one of my friends, one of the guys who died, and I goes, oh man, did you see? I go, oh man, did you see American Idol last night? Quack. I can't believe that the apocalypse is going to ruin that. Quack. I feel like we should probably restart that sort of thing after we took over the world. Quack. And so we start to have this bizarre conversation as role-playing as ice swans. And it gets weirder and weirder and just kind of like more, just like this sort of banal, like explain like, why are we destroying the world in the first place? Quack. And we started to give them like backstory and talk about like, so how are things with your wife? Quack. And everybody else is just sitting there watching us, like watching the swans march back and forth and talk about their personal lives. And so finally someone asked Sandler, they're like, as they're talking like this, do all we hear is like honk 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 quack honk 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 quack, or do we hear them speaking English and the word quack? And Sandler goes, English. You hear them speaking English is what they're doing. And so someone goes, oh, holy crap, we can communicate with them. So he takes his character and he just walks up to the ice swans and he's like, hi guys. And so like, so Sandler explains to us, he goes, you two are shocked. The humans are all supposed to be dead. Like they're not supposed to be here just talking to you. And so we're like, oh, hello human, quack, submit now or face the consequences, quack. So he goes, you know, like, oh, I want to negotiate. And so Sandler explains to us as ice swans now, as we're role-playing as ice swans, that this could be a golden opportunity. If we take this guy back to see the leader, then the leader will know what to do next. And so we say, yes, the leader will want to see you, quack. And so we escort him down to, like, the, I don't know, I think the boiler room is where we were. The ice swans had, for whatever reason, they'd made a giant nest in the boiler room and had frozen the boiler. Because that would be dumb. There's like a maintenance room or something like that was downstairs, and so anyway, so they take this one character down to go see the ice swan, the ice king, and it's a giant ice swan, and so the ice swan picks up this kid and he looks him in the eyes and then hypnotizes, stares deep into his soul and takes over his brain, and he makes him one of the ice swans, one with the ice swans, and then he sends him back. This was the stoner. Yeah, this was the stoner, because I remember it was the stoner who eventually got everybody killed. So the stoner comes back, absent of any ice swans, and he meets up with the group again. And he's talking like the ice swans were. He shows up. He goes, "Hello, fellow humans, quack. I've come to an amazing conclusion, quack. We should all go down to the boiler room and meet the ice swan king, quack. He's a very nice guy, and he has like fruit rolls and other human snacks, other human treats for us to eat, quack." So he like the nanomachines guy then begins trying to persuade the group basically to kill itself so that we can all become one with whatever ridiculous society exists in this particular classroom. So we tell him no, because we're on to his evil scheme. Oh, you're with the ice swans now. You've gone ice swan. We can all talk. So we start to give him crap like we give the nanomachines guy crap. And so now we've got 2 players playing as like characters that are trying to get us to kill ourselves. So we get back to the library and then we have another discussion. We say, you know what, the library is boring. Let's relocate everyone to the cafeteria. And everyone's like, why? Some of us are like, why? Why should we do that? And we're like, you know, I don't know. If anyone else has any motivation to do anything in this game, speak now, or let's move everyone to the cafeteria. And I can't remember whose idea this was. I don't know if it was the ice swans, or I think it was something like maybe the ice swan was like in favor of it because the cafeteria was closer to the boiler room, and therefore that was like hurting everyone just a little bit closer, like step by step towards the boiler. So finally we agreed to just take everyone down to the cafeteria. And I think that Sandler wasn't sure what to do with this. I think that what someone was trying to do is they were trying to get everyone killed at once, or they were just trying to see what Sandler would do if we got the entire remaining party to all go down to one room and just like, you know, like, so it's a giant whale and it just swallows everyone. So we actually get there and the cafeteria is deceptively empty, kind of like the theater. And we go like, oh, there's probably something horrible back here. And sure enough, bursting out of the kitchen, there was like some kind of horrible monster made out of dough. And I can't remember how we defeated it, but I'm pretty sure that we managed to just like get a bunch of brooms and stuff, and we shoved it back in the door, and then we shut the door and barricaded the door. And we're like, all right, nobody go in that room. That room is full of evil monster. So we're all kind of hanging around, and then I think somehow the Ice Swan guy, the stoner kid, decides to, he convinces everyone to take refuge in a slightly smaller room in case something else attacks them. It was like in one of the closets or something like that, or some compartment within the kitchen that we knew about that was like kind of small. And he's like, okay, so everybody should go in here where it's safe, quack. And then we shall be in no danger from anyone, quack. And so everyone agrees to do this, except the people who were actively playing characters at the time. He just managed to roll high enough persuasion that all the current NPCs were like, oh, okay. So he gathers everybody up and he kind of just throws them all in there. And then what he had in his inventory was like a solid brick of pot, and it was like the size of his backpack. Like he didn't show up to school with like books. Like he had, you know, like you imagine like you go to school with like 4 textbooks in your backpack. He had like that much in volume of pot. And so what he does is he just throws that out on the floor and he just lights it, you know. And so then he like leaves the room and he shuts the door and he barricades the door with this lit brick of pot in there. And we're all like, so what was the point of that, Ice Swan guy? And he's like, I'm not sure. Like this is the guy. He goes, I'm not sure because you can't like die from pot overdose, but I know that they are sure as hell not going to be coordinated the next time that you guys get control over them. They're going to take like massive minuses to everything that they do. And so we're like, yeah, I guess that's true. So what he decided to do was, with the barricade in there, he goes down to the boiler room and he goes, I've defeated the other humans, quack. They are now languid and unable to resist your rule, quack. And so the Ice Swans march upstairs, and I'm pretty sure they threw open the doors, they unbarricaded the door, and then killed all the high-as-balls students that were still trapped in the closet. The rest of us, I believe we tried to go check out the band room. And this is where some of us got irritated because Sandler, I mean, if you can imagine this game already being so stupid, we didn't really have very high expectations. We just expected there to be like a little bit of theme when you went to a place. But we went into the band room and there were sirens. And what wound up happening was the rest of the party got sung to by the sirens. And so they all laid down and they let down their guard and then were killed by the sirens because that's what sirens do. And so that's how the game ended. Not a very exciting or cohesive story, but just very ridiculous, very stupid, and characteristic of most of the Call of Cthulhu games that I've ever played. I played one other that was a little bit better, where this was actually before the Children of the Sandler Call of Cthulhu edition. This was, my friend had set up a game where we were like all college professors, and one of our fellow college professors had like been studying the occult, and then he died. And so, like, I was playing, like, a professor of philosophy or something like that, and someone else was the band teacher, and one guy was named Gunter, and he was the janitor. And the janitor, the guy playing Gunter, he had taken, like, all these perks to get a bunch of, like, weapons and stuff like that. So I remember, like, we would play this game, and we were solving the mystery, and Gunter kept going, like, we should blow it up. Like, we should blow this up. Man, this is terrible. We should blow this up. Like, so we got, like, guns and stuff. Like, Gunter kept getting, like, all kinds of, like, you know, like, old guns, like, zip guns, stuff like that. And we were like, how are we going to smuggle it in? And we were like, tuba cases. It got to just be a comedy. Like, we had so many things. We were like, we got to smuggle stuff in and out of the school every time we found some occult item. But how are we going to smuggle it into the school? I know, grab a tuba case. And so we would get tuba cases from the band room, fill them full of guns and like occult contraband and stuff like that, and bring them into this college that we worked for. And then we would try to hide them someplace else, right? Or, you know, because it would be terrible if we had the students show up and look, you know, go to get their tubas and they open it up and like, oh, there's no tubas in here, just guns. All the kids would be so mad. I used to be in band. I knew how this would be. Wouldn't care about the guns. We used to do strange things in band. But anyway, though. Yes, so what that one wound up being is it was suspenseful, and there was stuff going on, and like my friend had things planned But the trouble is that as players, we're just too comical of people, and so it got to be more about the comedy of Gunter and friends, and less about actually solving the mystery. And at the end, we solved everything by finding the house. Like, we found out when one of their meeting dates was, and I remember, like, the vindication with which we kind of approached the whole thing is we were like, okay, so it's really crucial that they get this summoning ritual right, or supposedly the demon could get free, or they summon something. They summoned something incorrectly, or something would go wrong, right? And the GM's like, yeah, presumably. I mean, based on what you know of the occult, or based on what your professor friend was researching before he vanished. And they're like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to make slight alterations to the recipe. Because what we did is we sneak into this house while nobody was around, and we found like one of their occult books that explained how to do the summoning ritual. And so he explains, like, these are the materials that they're going to need. And we were like, oh, okay. So, like, there were hints, like, there were things like, where would they get these materials? Oh, from this guy. Like, they had to be connected to someone within the college. Like, there was a broader conspiracy and stuff like that. Like, we looked, and it was like, roll intelligence. Oh, they've got, like, this particular kind of chemical compound. Like, the only place that would be very likely that they would be getting that from the college. And I was like, yes. That's very terrible. But what if we do this? And I remember what we did is we just slightly changed some of the recipes so that they were like, like instead of like a pot of, what would be a good example? Like, cause he was telling us some of the stuff that was in it. I'm trying to think. Like, cause some of it was like complex chemical formulas, and so we would just like screw with the formulas and like just make very slight changes to the ingredients, or like, like instead of like 1 cup of sugar, it would be like 2 cups of sugar, or things like that. Like, we just kind of ruined the incantation, like changed the words a little bit. So what happened then was when we went to go watch the summoning ritual, instead of trying to stop it or figure out who was behind it, we told the GM, like, all right, now that we've subtly altered, like, we got really good rolls on the penmanship, on the forgery, so we just forged a bad summoning ritual. And so we were like, all right, now that we've subtly changed the summoning ritual, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and watch with binoculars the house when they go to do their summoning. and so, the GM was just like, you guys don't want to like solve the mystery because the summoning is set for like a month out from now, and we were like, no, just let them do the summoning, but let them do it with this botched summoning formula. And so he goes, okay, you guys want to do anything else in the month waiting until the summoning? And we were like, yeah, have Gunter get like a whole bunch of explosives. And the GM goes, why? Why do you want a whole bunch of explosives? And they're like, well, we're going to rig the house with explosives. And if they manage to complete the summoning anyway, we're just going to blow up the house. So the GM goes, okay, that's very, that functions. I mean, that works. You could investigate the mystery, or you could blow up the house. I guess it's my fault for not having you in a more enclosed situation. So he gives us the explosives. We use our connections to get a whole bunch of like homemade chemical bombs and stuff like that. And we set about and we like rig up the house and like douse, like, we douse the house in gasoline while the guys are inside doing their ritual, because we know when they're gonna do it. And we could watch from, like, there was like a window in the basement or something like that. So we were able to watch from a reasonable distance, like from another rooftop house or something like that with, like we got up on someone else's rooftop with a ladder. And we're like watching down into their basement through a basement window they had. And so he goes, yes, so they get around and they do their summoning ritual, and you can see that the runes glow and they do their chant, and it looks like they're successfully doing occult magic. And then the room lights up and the flash subsides and there's a giant pink elephant in the room. And when it trumpets, bowling balls fly out of its trunk. And all the cultists look thoroughly confused, and they have no idea what went wrong, and they start immediately flipping through their summoning ritual books. And we're like, all right, good. Set off the bombs. And the GM's like, so you're gonna set off the bombs anyway, even though you probably set back who knows how many months of their research? And we're like, yeah, just set off the bombs. Like, they're all obviously evil. They were trying to summon the devil. This is proof. So we blow up the house, and so the GM, he just kind of like folds up, and he's like, well, congratulations, guys. You won a Call of Cthulhu game. You're not really supposed to be able to win. You really are supposed to get yourselves killed by being too curious for your own good. But wrong group. I should have known. You assholes. So yes, that was a fun one. That was one that made a lot more coherent sense. But yes, like I said, I've never played a Call of Cthulhu game and ever got through it in such a way that the GM was happy. Except for when the GM wanted to ruin everything. I mean, like I said, never once, never even one game have I seen that happen. But anyway, though, I suppose that'll be it for today, so I will catch you guys later.